Go to headgear, should be the patrol cap, OEF-CP. Just throw that on for now, you don't need your helmets. And Badigan, take your night vision off. No, you don't need your helmet, so you can throw it in your bag and then grab a patrol cap. Gonna be in the classroom for a little bit soon. Or actually, in fact, you can scratch that, just take your helmet off when we go inside. Don't take a patrol cap, Badigan, throw it back in.
User joined your channel.
Alright guys, be right back 1 second. Gotta handle something.
Right. Follow me. Badigan, put a helmet on. It's fine. You're not actually gonna need a patrol cap. No, just use your helmet and don't leave shit on the floor. Oh, throw it in your bag. Put it on, Badigan, in your case. Alright, follow me. Make sure your rifle is condition full, we're on base, so magazine out, safety on, both of you. And then follow me. Get your covers off before you go in. Take a seat at the front here.
Actually take a seat or just like stand?
Take a seat. Ace interact with it. There's key. Oh, that's my bag you just went into.
Work.
Look at the seat. Windows button, interaction, hit sit down. Very simple.
Doesn't show up to me.
Are you holding the Windows key down the whole time?
Yes. Hold it down.
Patagam, are you seated on your screen?
Yes, sir, I am. I mean, yes, Sergeant.
Not a sergeant, I'm not a sergeant, I'm a first sergeant.
Yes, for Sergeant.
Get it right eventually. Alright. So, we're going to start this class off today with some map reading and terrain recognition, or terrain rec. So, the first thing I want you guys to do is press Mic on your keyboard and open up your map. Guys, looking at your maps.
I'm looking at the map.
Yes, for Sergeant, looking to map.
Alright. So, you can zoom in and out on your map using the scroll wheel on your mouse. I want you guys to zoom all the way out on your map. You zoom all the way out, you're going to see these horizontal lines and these vertical lines. These are grid lines. Horizontal lines are known as easting lines because they go eastward. Vertical lines are known as northing lines because they go northward. So, how do these grids work? In a two-digit grid. Two-digit grid shows a 10 square kilometer area. It's the largest grid that you can call out. So a two-digit grid would consist of 1-1 where we currently are. You read easting to northing, all right? Northing to easting. So left to right, bottom to top. Now, if you zoom in, you then get a 4-digit grid. So you have 2 digits along the top, 2 digits along the side. Do you guys see where my little yellow dot is?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant. First Sergeant.
All right. That 4-digit grid shows a 1 square kilometer area. So if we read northing to easting, that grid would be 1417. Right? Left to right, bottom to top. Very simple. Now if we continue to zoom in, we will eventually get to where you have a 6-digit grid. Everybody see where my little yellow dot is?
Yes, First
Yep.
Sergeant.
So, go ahead and zoom in on that little yellow dot until you see 3 digits along the top and 3 digits along the side. Does anybody have a guess as to what the 6-digit grid is, where my yellow dot is at right now?
175.
You read left to right, bottom to top.
Yeah, 175 to 144 and a half.
175 is a full grid south of where that fucking yellow dot is, and I just told you we read left to right, bottom to top. So if you look at the numbers at the top and go from left to right, what's the first number you get to?
144.
44.
And then if you read from bottom to top on the left side, what's the next number you get to?
176.
There you fucking go. So it would be 144176. Left to right, bottom to top. Pretty simple. Now a 6-digit grid dictates a 100 square meter area. This is the closest grid reference you can give via your map digits. Now there is also an 8-digit grid. An 8-digit grid dictates a 10-meter area. However, 8-digit grids are not represented on your map, so you have to do that on your own. So if we move just a little bit west here to where my yellow dot is now. So in that grid, if I were to put my yellow dot up here and use an 8-digit grid, again, this is where you have to kind of guesstimate. So I would say that 8-digit grid is 1419er, 1769er. Right? Because it's at the top right of the grid. Alternatively, if it was, say, here, be 1415, 1761. Pretty simple. Alternatively, you can use sectors. Okay, so if you break this grid up, you have a central sector, north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest. Very, very simple. So my yellow dot here would be grid 141176 northwest sector. Alternatively, you can also use what is known as the keypad method. So same thing. However, instead of calling it by sector, you call it by keypad. So if you imagine this grid as the keypad on your keyboard, my yellow dot would currently be at grid 141176, keypad 2, because that's where the number 2 key is on the number pad. All right, you guys understanding that?
Yes, First
Yes,
Sergeant.
First Sergeant.
All right. Now I want you guys to zoom out a little bit. Look just to the southwest. See my little yellow dot still?
Yes, First Sergeant.
I heard one yes.
Yes, First Sergeant.
All right. So, see that number next to my yellow dot? What is that number? Do you not know how to read two numbers next to each other?
No, I said no idea.
You don't know what the number 9 and the number 1 next to each other indicate.
Like a hill or something? Or
It's the fucking number 91.
yeah, I know, but I don't know what does it mean. Here.
I didn't ask you what it meant.
That's why
I asked you what it was. It's the fucking
for
number
certain.
9 to 1.
Okay, so
On my map, the number 88 is really close. I think that might be a northern line. I'm not sure if that was the number you were talking about.
The number right next to the yellow dot that says 9-1.
Yeah, I see it.
Now that 9-1 dictates the elevation above sea level. So that hilltop is 91 meters above sea level. It's also a good way to identify hilltops. So when you hear us say Hill 91, Hill 106, Hill 101, Hill 105, that elevation number is how we're identifying those hilltops. So we can tell someone to move to Hill 91 and they can look at their map and see the 91 and know, okay, that's where I'm going. So we can say move to Hill 91 at grid 128166, keypad 6 or keypad 8. And they know, okay, that's the Hill 91 that they're talking about. Now, a hilltop is easily identifiable by these lines. Either one of you have any idea what these lines are called?
I don't.
No idea, sir. For certain.
Still not a fucking sir.
For certain, sorry.
Those lines are contour lines. They dictate elevation change. So if you look down in the bottom right of your map, it will show you the contour interval. That contour interval will tell you how much elevation change there is based upon the distance in between those contour lines. So, and that distance or that elevation will differ depending upon how much you're zoomed in. So the closer you zoom in, the more accurate it's going to be. So where I'm currently zoomed in at, it says contour interval for every 1 meter in between the lines is 50 meter elevation. So, or sorry, other way. Now, this doesn't matter too much to us. The main thing you want to pay attention to, the actual number in the bottom right corner, doesn't matter too much because, again, it changes depending upon how much you zoom in. The main thing to understand here is that the closer together those contour lines are, the steeper the elevation is going to be. So when you see those contour lines stacked up real tight on each other, it's going to be really steep elevation right there. Now on top of that, you can also see these pointy looking objects. That dictates heavy rock coverage. All right, so that means you have a lot of rocks in those areas where those spikes are. Now other areas, like just northwest of there, where it's green, that dictates foliage. So trees, bushes, stuff like that. That's the kind of things you need to look at when you're doing map recon is, do you have a lot of rocks so you have solid cover? Or do you just have a lot of foliage which provides minimal solid cover but good concealment? I want you guys to zoom out a little bit, look a little bit further to the west. You guys see where my yellow dot is now?
Yes.
Yes, for certain.
All right. So the next thing we're going to go over, some other terrain features besides a hilltop. When you have multiple hilltops strung together like you have here, those hilltops will be strung together by something known as a saddle. That is this low point in between these hilltops. Saddles and hilltops together create a ridgeline or a ridge complex. Ridge complexes usually consist of multiple ridge lines. So this southern ridge line is part of a ridge complex that wraps all the way around up north here. Now coming off of these hilltops, these elevated portions here are known as a spur. The depression in between those spurs coming off of the saddles are known as a draw. So you have your hilltop, your saddle, your draw, your spur, ridge line, ridge complex. Now, in between a ridge complex is generally going to be a low point known as a valley. Valleys are your path of least resistance, which is where you're generally going to find roadways. They're also the most dangerous place to travel. So, anytime we are traveling through a ridge complex, we will try our best to not move directly through the valley if we can. Obviously, if we're in mounted operations and we're working with the gun trucks, we pretty much have to stay on the road. You don't generally want to try and drive a 5-ton gun truck up a mountain. Doesn't work out too well. But if we're on foot, we're not going to walk right down this valley. We are going to walk midway up one of these ridge lines. So we are going to move across the ridge line around here. We don't want to move in the valley because that means everybody has higher ground than us. We are at a disadvantage. We don't want to move right along the top of a ridge line because then you are skylining. So we move part way up the ridge line. That way, if we are attacked from above, we can assault into the ambush. If we are attacked from the other ridge line across the valley, we can fall onto the backside of our ridge and have defilade. Now, if, say, we were assaulting something in this valley, and we were on the south side of the ridge line, and we needed to get across the ridge line, we would not move over the hilltop. Moving over a hilltop exposes you on all sides. We move through a saddle. So we would send up a security element to the hilltops. They would go up there real nice and low. They would crawl all the way up to the top, get eyes out, and then the bulk of the element would push through the saddle so that we have defilade on either side of us and then can push through.
All right, I am
Bad again.
back.
Question.
For certain, I'm still a bit confused about the difference between a saddle and a valley.
Saddle is what connects a hilltop. Valley is what's in between two big-ass ridge lines.
So a saddle would be at a higher elevation than a valley.
A saddle is literally in between two hilltops, so yes, it is physically impossible for it to be lower than a valley.
Understood.
Easiest way to remember this, way the Army teaches it, method known as the fist method. So, I want you guys to take your hand, ball it up into a fist, and then look at the back of your hand. Your knuckles are hilltops. That depression in between your knuckles, those are saddles. Your fingers are draws. The depression in between your fingers are spurs. The depressions in between your fingers are the draws. All right, so knuckles, hilltops. Depression in between the knuckles, saddle. Fingers, spurs. Depression in between your fingers, draws. Make sense?
Yes, First Sergeant.
It's for certain.
All right, pretty damn simple. All right, go ahead and close your maps. So the next thing we're going to do is go over the usage of one of the most important tools that you will carry on you. And that is your micro dagger. Now, our job can be completed without the micro dagger. However, it does provide very good information very quickly. So, what I want you guys to do first is press H as in hotel, and it should bring up your micro dagger in your bottom left of your screen. And while looking at your micro dagger, it will provide you with a couple of pieces of information. So at the top center of your micro dagger, it will give you your current in-game time, which right now is 0810 hours. At the bottom, it will give you the current direction you are facing in degrees. It'll be in the bottom left corner, which right now should be right around 270 degrees. Very quickly, there are 4 numbers that I want you guys to memorize. 4 numbers that need to be seared into your fucking brain for the rest of your time here. Those numbers are 090, 180, 270, and 360. Any idea what those 4 numbers correlate to?
Yes, First Sergeant. Those are for the north side or south side, southeast, like these kind of stuff.
4 cardinal directions.
Yep.
North, south, east, west. 090, 180, 270, and 360. Memorize those 4 numbers, you're going to be golden. Somebody calls out that they have movement bearing 270, you know it's west. If they call out that it's bearing 300, you know it's northwest, because it's in between 270 and 360. Pretty fucking simple. They call out that it's at bearing 160, you know it's southeast. Very quickly. Now to continue on with the information that's on your microdagger. In the bottom center of your screen, it will give you your current 6-digit grid. So if someone asks for your current position, you can very easily, within 100 meters, tell them exactly where you are, currently grid 160168. And then you can also look at that screen and give them an exact sector. So right now, we're at grid 160168, western sector. Now they know within 10 meters of where you are at. Lastly, in the bottom right corner, it will tell you the current cardinal direction you are looking, which right now should be west. Now, if you hold left control on your keyboard and press H, it will open your microdagger up to what we call full screen. Basically, it'll put the microdagger in the center of your screen much larger. Now, when you're looking at that, you're going to see a little yellow line coming off of where your current position is, which is the green circle with the arrow. That little yellow line is going to lead to an arrow which follows your cursor. Now, as you move that cursor around, you'll notice that that little gray box that is in that screen has numbers that are changing as you move that cursor around. Those numbers are the relevant information to where that cursor is currently placed. Now, on a microdagger, you can see something known as a Blue Force tracker marker, or simply a BTM. Blue Force markers are placed by those of us carrying Android devices. Cannot place a BTM with a microdagger, but you can see them. So squad leaders and above are the only ones that place those markers. Those markers are used to dictate enemy positions, friendly positions, CCPs, rally points, resupply positions, so on. Now, we currently have a marker sitting out there marked at 0737. Now, those numbers next to that red symbol dictate what time that marker was placed, what current in-game or what in-game time that marker was placed. So that marker was placed at 0737 hours.
30 minutes ago.
Now, that is how we reference our BTMs, is by that time that is put next to them. So if someone tells you to reference BTM 0737, then they're referencing that mark right there. And you can look at your microdagger and see, oh, okay, it's this one right here. Now, if you place your cursor over that marker, it will provide you with all of the relevant information on that marker's position. So it will give you the current 6-digit grid, 159167. Current elevation above sea level, 14 meters. Current distance, 0.15 kilometers, which is how far in meters?
150 meters?
150 meters. It will give you the current bearing, our current direction, both in bearing and cardinal. So 206 degrees, southwest. Now, the symbols also mean something. Fortunately, we don't have a slide for all of them, but they're pretty damn easy to figure out, especially if you know how to work your goddamn Google. But very simply, the one you see there, individual line, means it's individual foot soldier. One you're going to be looking at the most is going to be a diamond with an X in the center of it. So it'll look like that, the 0815 marker I just put down. That is an enemy infantry squad. Notice how it has a dot over the top of it. Each one of those dots indicates the number of squads. So if there's 3 squads there or 4 squads there, it's going to have more dots. So if it's got an infantry squad marker like that and it's got 4 dots over it, you know that's roughly a platoon of infantry on that mark. Now you also have that exact same mark, but with an oval inside of the diamond as well. That means mechanized infantry. If you take the X away and just leave the oval, it means heavy armor. Right? Pretty simple. Those are the ones you're going to be seeing the most, and the ones you're going to want to pay attention to the most. Is the diamond with the X and an oval through it, and a diamond with an oval. Those are the most important ones for you to learn, or for you to memorize, I should say. Now, any questions on the usage of the micro dagger?
No, First Sergeant.
No, for certain.
Outstanding. Now, like I said, these things provide you a lot, and you can go ahead and close that down. These things provide you with a lot of really good information. However, do not bury your fucking nose in it and get lost in that micro dagger. That's not what it's there for. And it will also track all of the people that are in your group. So if you get separated from your group, you can open your micro dagger and see where the guys are at. But, as I was saying, don't get lost in staring at that damn micro dagger. Right? Rely on your team leaders to do their job and relay that relevant information to you. If you guys are told to, engage a certain BTM or so on, that order is going to come down from your squad leader. Your team leader is going to be the one to open up his micro dagger, find that BTM, know exactly what it is, relay that information to you guys as far as where it is in relation to you, that he'll be able to give you the 3Ds, distance, direction, and description on that blue force marker and get you guys on target. You guys don't need to open up your micro dagger full screen to be able to engage something. That's what your team leader's there for. All right? Make sense?
Yes, for certain.
All right. So, what we're going to do now is head down range to the vehicle PID course and take you guys through some of the vehicles that you're going to be seeing throughout your time here. Now, this is not going to cover every single vehicle you're going to see, but it'll cover the bulk of them. We're also going to go over what you should and should not engage those vehicles with. So, follow me outside.
Can you fix up Badigan once he gets outside?
There you go. There he goes.
The issue, Sergeant Myers?
Yeah, I think he broke his leg on the chair.
He's good.
Good.
Alright, Sergeant Myers, get these guys out to the field real quick. I'm going to place down another flag just in case that one doesn't work.
Roger that, First Sergeant. Alright guys, follow me. Alright, stand by for a flagpole to get placed, that works. Give this one a second for the other one to get placed down. Right, take the teleport to Bravo. Stand by for First Sergeant to get here.
Alright, follow me. Alright, first vehicle we're going to cover here. On my right, your left. Alright, this is the BTR. Now, basically three different types of BTR. There's BTR 60, 70, and 80. For us, there's really no difference in between them. They are all APCs, which is an armored personnel carrier, meaning this thing does carry troops in the back of it. You can also sometimes, if they're dumb enough, see them carrying troops on the top as well. Just because they're carrying troops on the top doesn't mean to start shooting at this thing with your fucking M4. Good way to get shot in the face by a machine gun or a cannon. So don't do it. It's stupid. All of these are wheeled vehicles, meaning they're not exactly the most maneuverable, but they are pretty goddamn quick. They're all amphibious, meaning they can cross bodies of water. They're very slow and very vulnerable when doing so, but they can cross a body of water. And that turret does stick up out of the water, so that means the motherfucker can still shoot at you when it's crossing a river or a lake or so on. Now, these are what we consider light armor. About as light a armor as it gets. When it comes to engaging a BTR, it is an armored vehicle, so common sense would tell you we're not going to engage this with any type of small arms, meaning M4s, fucking M9s, any stupid shit like that. Not going to do it. Smallest weapon system we'll engage this with is the SAW. Now, yes, the SAW is chambered in the same round as the M4 that you're carrying. However, the reason that we can engage this with the SAW carries a 200 round fucking box, as to where an M4 carries a 30 round magazine. We can engage the tires of one of these and destroy a couple of the tires to at least disable the vehicle. It's obviously not going to eliminate the threat, but it's going to stop the motherfucker from hopefully moving around on us. However, it takes about 100 rounds from one SAW to take out a single tire. So that means to take out 2 tires, you're emptying an entire box of ammunition out of a SAW on one of these things. So it's an absolute last resort to engage one of these with a 249. Now, aside from the 249, the next lowest piece of weapon that we will engage this with is our thumpers, 40mm grenade launchers. We will use HEDP. All right, remember we went over this day one. High explosive dual purpose is used for vehicles and entrenched enemies. HEDP can take out the tires on one of these things and again disable it. But again, that doesn't eliminate the threat. Just because you've seen a vehicle or see a vehicle that has been disabled does not mean it's no longer a threat. Just because it can't drive around doesn't mean that turret can't still spin 360 and engage shit. So just because you see that a vehicle has been disabled doesn't mean go fucking run out in front of the turret. Because when you get shot, I'm going to be pissed off that I trained somebody that was that fucking retarded. Next, our shoulder fire munitions. Laws can disable and even potentially destroy one of these things, provided you are close enough. All right, so you need to be pretty close with the law in order to disable or destroy one, within 300 meters. Now, if you are firing a law at one of these, you're going to want to hit it in one of the soft spots, which is going to be in the belly armor, down where the wheels are, in the back doors, or in the top plate. Remember when we were talking about the Javelin day one, top plate and armor is always inherently the weakest. So if you can get an elevated shot from above with the law at, say, 100 meters, there's a pretty good chance you're going to disable or even potentially destroy this vehicle. Same goes for the AT-4. Still want to hit it in the same spots, however, you got more range. You can engage one of these out to about 300 meters with an AT-4, and it's still highly likely that you're going to destroy it. These things are basically paper fucking mache to an AT-4. So, weapon of choice for engaging one of these is always going to be an AT-4 first. Then we kind of go down from there. AT-4. If we don't have an AT-4 available, we'll hit it with a law. If we don't have a law available, we'll hit it with a 40 mic. Now, this doesn't mean that if you're down the road, say you get billeted as a grenadier, this doesn't mean that you just sit there and hoard your fucking HEDP grenades waiting for your rifleman to hopefully get off his ass and fire his AT-4 at the BTR. As soon as you see that motherfucker and you have a firing solution on it, start chucking 40 mics down range and hit this thing. Eliminate the threat as quickly as you possibly can. Same goes if you have an AT-4 and it's out there 250 meters. That's well within your engagement range. Don't wait for the weapons squad to kill a fucking BTR just because, oh, they're the weapons guys and they're supposed to kill armor. No, there's a reason that rifle squads carry AT sticks. And it's for little bullshit like this. This is a waste of a weapons squad time if a rifle squad has the ability to engage it. Now, there will be times where a rifle squad's not going to be able to engage it. They're not going to be able to get eyes on it quickly enough. Weapons squad has to engage it. But if you're able to maneuver and get a firing solution on it with an AT-4, fucking do it. Don't make one of your weapons guys waste a Maz rocket, or heaven forbid have to waste a fucking javelin missile on a little podunk BTR that can be taken out with a grenade launcher. It's a waste of their time. It's a waste of precious fucking resources that you're going to be begging for when a main battle tank or something shows up. Now, when it comes to the weapon squads, engaging stuff like this, as I said, they can engage it with a Maz. However, it is a waste of a Maz rocket if a rifle squad can take it out first. But they can engage one of these with a Maz rocket out to and including 800 meters. They can smoke one of these things, no problem. Javelins aren't going to be used on a BTR unless there is just absolutely no other choice for some fucking reason. There's no air assets up in the air. Nobody can engage it with anything else, and nobody in the entire task force has any 40mm grenades left. If hell were to freeze over and that situation happened, then potentially a jav could be fired at one of these things. But in my 3 years of doing this, it's never happened. Now also, weapon squads carry what? The M240 Bravo medium machine gun, right? It's chambered in the 7.62. Well, they also carry a limited amount of armor-piercing ammo. That AP ammo can punch right through the belly armor of this thing like it's fucking butter. So do not be surprised if you see a 240 gunner engaging a BTR. He's not taking out the tires. He's shooting right through the armor and killing the crew and the occupants inside. So if you do see a 240 gunner engaging one of these things, don't start freaking out and thinking it's going to get you killed or some shit. He's fucking melting the guys inside the vehicle. All right, any questions on the BTR?
No, Sergeant.
No, for certain.
All right, let's move on. All right. This is the BTR-80A, or the BTR-80 Alpha. Now, the other BTRs we cover as one lump sum because, like I said, for us, they're all the same. There's only very slight differences in the actual armament, whether it be medium to heavy machine gun or a small caliber cannon. This, the 80A, is covered completely separately because it has a medium caliber autocannon. This autocannon is absolutely fucking devastating. It has a very high rate of fire and fires very potent, high explosive rounds. They can also use armor-piercing rounds and stuff like that, but generally, they're going to be using HE, and they're going to be shooting at us. And it's very fucking effective. This is one of the biggest threats that you will go up against. Now, it has all the exact same characteristics as the other BTRs. Armor personnel carrier, wheeled, amphibious, so on, can be engaged by all the same weapon systems. Cannot be engaged by all the same weapon systems. As I said, the only reason this one is covered separately is because of that autocannon sitting up on the top of it, because it is a much larger threat. Now remember, like we talked about the other day, we always engage the biggest threat first. Okay? So if we had two BTRs roll into the AO, one's a BTR-80A and one's just a BTR-60, we're going to hit the 80A first with anything we have within our reach, because that is the biggest threat to us. Not only us on the ground, but also the guys up in the air. These things will take down a fucking helicopter, Ricky Tick. So this is our first target. Then we engage the BTR-60. But this is priority number one. Now when it comes to calling these vehicles out, the other BTRs, it's perfectly fine just to call it as a BTR. Doesn't matter if you call it as a 60, 70, 80, doesn't fucking matter. You can even just say it's a BTR. Everybody is going to know what you're talking about. But this one, you need to make damn sure that you call it out as either a BTR-80A, BTR-80 Alpha, or simply just call it as an autocannon BTR. That's perfectly fine. But just make sure that you differentiate this from any of the other BTRs, because it is a bigger threat, and we need to know that we have an autocannon sitting out there somewhere. Right? Any questions on the BTR-80 Alpha?
No, Sergeant.
No, for certain.
All right, let's move on. All right. Here we have a BRDM. Now, the BRDM is classified as an armored car, which makes it still light armor for most of us. A lot of us consider it a soft target because it's very lightly armored. Now, what is the biggest difference you notice between this BRDM and the BTRs that we
wake
just
up.
went over?
This one has 4 wheels, the other one has, I think, 8.
Exactly. Now, this does actually have 8 wheels. If you look along the side of it, there's 2 little stabilizing wheels there in the center. But you're not going to be able to see those at a couple hundred fucking meters out. So, essentially, yes, this thing has 4 wheels. BTRs have 8. That is the quickest and easiest way to differentiate one of these things from a BTR. Now, one of these are not a huge threat. These can easily be taken out by 40mm grenades, laws, all of that shit. So, again, like with the BTR 60, 70, 80 and the BTR 80A, you need to make sure you properly identify this shit, because if we have a BRDM and a BTR 60 both roll into the AO at the same time, we're going to hit the BTR 60 first because it's a bigger threat than the BRDM. All right, makes sense?
For certain.
Excellent. Let's move on.
Oh, is this an IFE?
Well, you would probably find out if you'd shut your cock holster until I get to the point where I tell you what the vehicle is.
Alright.
So, next vehicle we're going to cover. The MP1. Vehicle on my right, your left. The MP1 is, yes, classified as an IFV, an infantry fighting vehicle. It is not an armored personnel carrier. However, it can carry troops. Now, the BMP-1, very recognizable thanks to A, large smoothbore cannon, B,
User disconnected
its
from your
unguided
channel.
rocket at the top. That's that white fucking rocket up on the top. Works like a bottle rocket. It's unguided. It's on a rail. So they just fire it in the general direction they want to go and hope for the best. But it's a big fucking rocket. So even if they get it somewhat close, it's going to hurt. Now that cannon, as I said, it's a smoothbore cannon. It is primarily used for anti-armor purposes. However, they can load HE shells and fire at infantry. However, it does have a very slow rate of fire. Now, this vehicle is what we would classify as medium armor. Now, what, first and foremost, is the biggest difference you notice between the BMP and the BTR?
This one has tracks, for certain.
Exactly. This is a tracked vehicle, not a wheeled vehicle. Now, a tracked vehicle, generally not as fast as a wheeled vehicle, but it's much more maneuverable, can cross much rougher terrain. Now, this thing is also amphibious, like the BTR. Yes, this big motherfucker can cross water. Now, when it comes to engaging one of these, obviously it doesn't have any wheels to take out to disable. So we're not going to hit it with any type of small arms, including 40 mics. HETP ain't going to do dick all to a BMP. Don't try and fire your fucking thumper at a BMP. Obviously a saw can't take out the wheels because there are no fucking wheels. 240 gunner also isn't going to hit one of these because even their armor piercing ammo isn't enough to punch through the armor on this thing.
Sorry, for certain. I don't know what happened there.
I do. You went full fucking retard. It happens again, you are fucking gone.
Yes, for certain.
I've been doing this specific class for over 2 years, and I've seen some stupid shit, but that takes the fucking cake. I mean, that is fucking next level special shit. I don't know what your fucking dietary needs of Crayola was this morning, but fucking Christ, you might want to lay off. Now to continue on, BMP-1, as I said, is not going to be engaged by any type of small arms. Now when it comes to engaging these with shoulder fire munitions, a law can disable one, potentially destroy it if you're very close to it. And I'm talking 100 meters or so, and you hit it in the top plate, you can potentially destroy one of these with a law. An AT-4 is pretty much going to be a guaranteed hit or guaranteed kill anywhere inside of 300 meters, with exception to the front plate. Are you looking at the nose of this thing? You can see it has sloped armor. The sloped armor is made to bounce armor-piercing rounds. So, if you're firing at this thing with an AT-4, you don't want to hit it in the front. Try and flank around to the side, the rear, or, as I said, get an elevated shot from above. Same goes for the law. Hit it in one of the weak points. If you can't get close enough to it, flank around to one of the sides, try and hit a track and disable it. At least stop the thing from being able to move around the battlefield. Now, if there does come a point at which you have to shoot a shoulder fire munition at one of these vehicles, for fuck's sakes, be smart enough to not stand in front of the turret that is staring at you to fire. Meaning, if you have that tube sitting on your shoulder and you step out from behind your cover and the turret is staring at you like a fucking stalker, do not continue to stand there out in the open trying to get a shot. I have seen more than a fucking many a retard get shot in the fucking face because he's trying to line up a shot with his AT-4 staring at a piece of armor. You okay over there, Macmillan? Because you look like you're having a stroke. Or are you possibly bored? Am I not entertaining enough for you, Macmillan?
But the thing that happened in the beginning was really funny.
If you would like to go away, maybe put some pigtails in your hair and have a nice little fucking giggle with yourself, then you are more than welcome to get the fuck out of my class. Otherwise, shut the fuck up, pay attention, and learn the shit that I am teaching you, because thus far, you have been one of the dumbest motherfuckers I have ever had come through this class. So it would probably be a good idea to pay the fuck attention.
Okay, Sergeant.
Now moving on to the next vehicle. We have the BMP-2. Now the BMP-2 is basically the upgraded version, hence the number 2. Now the BMP-2 has all the same characteristics in terms of its capability. Still can carry some troops. Still can cross bodies of water. Still classified as medium armor. Biggest difference in the BMP-2 to the BMP-1 is the armament. BMP-2 has a medium caliber autocannon. It also has a guided missile. That's that yellow tube at the top. That is known as a Conquer's missile. Conquer's missile, one of the most devastating ATGMs that have ever been around. ATGM is an anti-tank guided missile. So it's a wire guided missile, much like the tow missiles that we use. Pretty much the exact same thing. So they fire that thing, guide it with the wires. They can put it through a fucking window of a house from beyond a kilometer away. Now, while that missile is generally used for armor, it can still be fired at infantry. Makes a big fucking boom when it hits. So, again, while it's generally used for armor, don't be amazed if that thing gets fucking fired at us. However, the bigger threat to us is that autocannon. Basically the same autocannon that's on that BTR-80 Alpha. Now, this is a bigger threat than the BTR-80 Alpha because there's less weapon systems that we can engage it with. All right, we can't hit it with the 240s. We can't hit it with 40 mics. We have to have some type of AT to take one of these things out. So, if, for example, a BMP-2 and a BTR-80A both roll into the AO, we're engaging the BMP-2 first because that's the bigger threat to us. All right, make sense?
Roger.
Yes, for son.
All right, let's move on. All right, here is ZSU-23, nicknamed the Shilka, also known as the Zeus Cannon. Now the Shilka, also considered, are what we would classify as medium armor. However, unlike the BMP, Shilka has not one, not two, but 4 fucking autocannons on it. So, we stress how big of a threat the BTR-80 Alpha and the BMP-2 are because of those autocannons. This thing has fucking 4 of them. And it will rip through 250 rounds of HE in about 15 seconds. It has a lot of fucking high explosives flying downrange very quickly. Now this is primarily an anti-aircraft vehicle. Hence why it has a fucking radar on top of it. However, as you can see, it's more than capable of depressing that barrel down far enough to engage infantry pretty fucking easily. So this thing is not only a threat to us, but it's also a big threat to our air assets, which are our fucking lifelines when we're out in the field. Now the easiest way to identify one of these is that radar up on the top. So if you're looking at it in the field, say next to the BMPs that we just went over, both of them tracked, so on, say they're behind some type of concealment, they got some foliage around them or so on, you can't really see the profile of the vehicle all that well. If you can see the top of that turret, you're instantly going to be able to recognize it as a Shilka, because it's going to have the white snare drum looking thing at the top of it. That's its radar. Easiest way to identify one. Now, one of the other vehicles that you will most likely see that we don't have out here right now is a Tunguska. Tunguska is basically the pissed off older brother, our younger brother, to the Shilka. Still has 4 autocannons, but it also has 8 anti-air missiles that have a long fucking range. So it's just as big of a threat to us on the ground, but it's an even bigger threat to our air assets. Those things are priority number 1. We see a Tunguska, we need to take that fucker out quickly. Tunguskas are easy to identify because they've got the traditional concave radar dish on the top of them. So where this has got the white drum looking thing, Tunguska's got the traditional radar. Now, when it comes to engaging one of these, basically think of it as a BMP as far as the weapons that you can engage it with. Got your AT-4s, basically all of your shoulder fire munitions can engage one of these. And that's going to be, like I said, priority number 1. Now this is something that weapon squads, they're going to be put up against it first, because the majority of the time when we see these, they're going to be outside of the engagement range of most rifle squads. They're going to be sitting 500 plus meters out there. We're going to call up the weapon squad and say, hey, take that fucker out with the Maws or hit it with the Javelin or something like that. If we do come across one as a rifle squad, generally we're going to hit it as quickly as possible, but oftentimes, like I said, they're going to be outside of our engagement range as a normal rifle squad. All right, any questions on the Shilka?
No, for son.
No, for sure.
All right, let's move on. These other 2 BMPs we're not going to go over as far as engagement. They're the exact same, so we don't need to go over anything special with those. All right. Next one we'll go over is the MBT, or the main battle tank. Now, there are multiple variations of the main battle tank that you'll see. T-70s, T7 or T72s, T80s, T90s, so on, and there's variations of each one of those. For us as infantry, they're all the exact fucking same. Doesn't make a difference. They all got a big ass cannon, machine guns all over them, and there ain't shit we can do to kill them. Now, in an absolute emergency, we can disable one with an AT4. We can hit the tracks and try and disable it, or we can also, if you can get an elevated shot, hit it right behind the turret. There's two big-ass grates back there right behind the turret. That's the exhaust. If you can hit it from an elevated position right back there, there's a good chance you can kill the engine and immobilize the vehicle. Or, as I said, hit it in the tracks and try and take out one of those and immobilize it. But other than that, we as infantry don't have dick all. Weapons squads, this is what they're here for. Maz rocket can take one of these out. Javelin missiles were made to take out this exact fucking tank. So this is what the weapons guys get called up for. Heavy armor. Also air assets. We have some of the greatest armor killing air assets man has ever created. So when we see shit like this, main battle tanks, basically find a fucking hole, hide in it, and wait for either weapon squads or air assets to kill it. That's it. As basic infantry, there ain't shit we're gonna do. Alright, any questions on the MBT?
No, for certain.
Alright, and as far as calling these things up, as I said, they're all basically the same to us. So you don't need to differentiate whether it's a T-72, T-80, T-90, so on. Doesn't fucking matter. Just call it up as a tank. That's all you need. MBT, tank, whatever. Doesn't matter. If we need further identification, then we'll get further eyes on it. Alright, let's move on. Alright. So now to go over some of our soft targets. Alright. We got our GAZ and our Ural on my right and left respectively. These are troop transports. Pretty fucking basic, nothing special to them. They're a flatbed truck with a canvas top and a couple of benches in the back. That's it. When it comes to engaging these things, we can engage them with every fucking thing we got. Hit them with 40 mics, hit them with fucking M4s, 249s, everything. Don't fire an AT4 at one of these though. This is not a fucking piece of armor. AT4 is an anti-tank. Don't fire a fucking AT4 at one of these trucks. However, you can fire a law at one of these trucks. These things are prime picking for a fucking law. If you've got, say, this Ural on my left, rolling in, down a road, and we're set up in a blocking position or in an ambush position, you've got a law on your back, and there's a bunch of troops in the back of that motherfucker, pull that law and hit it. You just killed probably 15 to 20 motherfuckers with a single rocket. What the law is made for. Other than that, hit it with all the small arms we got. I will tell you, if we are set up in that situation, say an ambush, and everything starts kicking off, and you see machine guns start engaging these trucks, being 249s and 240s, just wait and save your ammo. Wait for them to try and pile out of the back and get away, and then pick them off while the machine gunners are shooting through the fucking canvas, killing all the guys while they're still sitting on the benches. Don't bother wasting your ammo trying to shoot through the bench or shoot through the canvas and all that. Just wait for them to try and pile out of the back and smoke them as they fucking trip over themselves. All right. Any questions on the GAZ or the Ural?
No, sir.
No, for certain.
All right. Move on.
Sergeant, I have a question for you if you don't mind.
Stand by. All right, send it.
Well, this is outside the object right now. Is it okay if I ask? Because it's outside the topic.
Say again, I only got part of what you said.
Is it okay if I ask? Because my question is outside this topic.
Yeah.
Like, may I know, like, the goal why you're, like, doing this very strictly? Is it because you want to have a as much realistic as possible, or like do you do it like for just YouTube or whatever?
No, I do it to get the jollies off.
Do what?
You don't know what jollies are.
No, I'm not an American, so I'm not. My English not the first language. So.
Yep. The Realism unit, Macmillan. This is what it is to be in the United States Army. If you don't like getting your balls busted, then fuck off somewhere else.
No, that's not my thing. But because that's what I'm saying. The reason you do it so strictly just because.
Because it's a fucking realism unit, and this is what it is to be in the United States military. This is what we are simulating. This is what you agreed to when you said yes, when you were asked the question, do you understand our guidelines?
Yeah, okay, I get it. No, but I totally, don't get me wrong, I totally have no problem what you said. And in fact, I found it really funny, indeed. Like, I don't have any problem like whatever you say, or busting my balls. Don't have any problem with this. But just like I wanted to know.
If you do not have a problem, why are you still running your cock flaps at this point?
What do you mean?
This is the part where you shut the fuck up and we carry on.
Shut the fuck up.
So, next vehicles we're going to cover. Both on the left and right, they're the same vehicle. UAZ. These are gun trucks. All right. Oftentimes, you will hear guys call these out as a technical. They're not really technicals. Technical is a fucking taco truck with a PKM bolted in the back of it. These are purpose-built gun trucks. Okay. They have a framework and everything and a ring mount for a fucking turret. They are not a technical. But if you do hear guys call out technical, this is probably what they're talking about. Now, these ones come in two variety. You have the one on my right. I believe that one. Yep. One on my right with a Dishcom, which is a 12.7 millimeter heavy machine gun. 12.7 millimeter is basically a 50 cal. And you have the one on my left. That's an AGS-30. It's a fully automatic grenade launcher, much like the Mark 19 that we use. A little bit smaller, but much like it. Still fires HE grenades. Do not, however, call it out as a Mark 19. They do sound differently. Takes a little bit of time to learn the difference, but they do sound differently when they're fired. Reason I point that out is this. If we're out there in mounted operations, we got the gun trucks with us, we will have Mark 19s with us. So if you call up that you're being engaged by a Mark 19, when in actuality you're being engaged by an AGS-30, now we think there's a blue-on-blue situation going on, and we have fratricide, which is never acceptable. So make damn sure that you properly identify what's engaging you. Now, these two vehicles, again, soft targets, just like the GAZ and the Euro that we just went over. However, these things don't even have glass. They don't have canvas. They have nothing. They're open top fucking Jeeps, basically. So we can engage these with anything. Again, with exception to AT-4s. I have to point that out because there are some motherfuckers that are so dense, they're going to try and fire an anti-armor rocket at a fucking Jeep. Don't do it. You can literally shoot the gunner in the nuts from 500 meters away, and there's nothing he can do to stop you. So it's pretty simple to engage and eliminate one of these things as a threat. All right, any questions on the UAZs?
No, Sergeant.
No, for certain.
Move on. All right, so now we're going to go over some OPFOR air assets. First one we're going to go over is the Mi-24 Hind. Now, the Hind, one of the most recognizable helicopters in the world, due mostly to that dual bubble canopy up front. Now, the Hind is very distinct in the fact that not only is it an attack gunship, it is also a troop transport. You guys walk up here close, look inside those fucking windows on the side here, you'll see that there's also benches inside of the body of this thing. It will carry troops. Bad again. Comment.
Actually, it's a bit of a mistake I've made. I think I've left my radio behind, so, if...
That's fine, you're not going to need it.
Copy that.
Don't make the mistake again, though, because I can tell you now, in the future, you go out in the field without your gear, shit out of luck.
Yes, for sir.
So to continue on with this. Now, the Hind, as I said, is an attack gunship, and that is its primary role. It's very, very rare you're ever going to see one of these things dropping off troops or any shit like that. Primary role is an attack gunship. Now, it has its cannons mounted up at the nose, and then when it comes to the weapon systems mounted on the winglets, pretty much any weapon system you could think of strapping to a fucking airframe, the Russians have done it. This one in particular has rocket pods as well as Conqueror's missiles. They also have cannon pods, gumdrop bombs, guided bombs, fuel bombs, fucking anti-air missiles, guided missiles like the ones you see on this one here. All kinds of crazy shit that they will put on one of these things. Now when it comes to engaging one, very simply, we don't, unless it's sitting on the ground. If it's sitting on the ground and we can get an AT-4 shot off on it, then great, we'll hit one. Or if it's getting ready to take off, if we see it spooling up, we'll have the 240s engage it, because the 240s can actually punch through the armor and kill the pilot and the co-pilot, or even take out the rotors on it as well. But other than that, we as infantry don't engage one. If we have absolutely no other choice, then we can use a Javelin missile on one. But that's an absolute last fucking resort. Alright, any questions on the Hind?
No, sir.
No, for certain.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, so we're actually in the middle of two vehicles here. Here's both Mi-8 HIPs. Now the one on your guys' right is a gunship variant of the HIP. Now the HIP is primarily a troop transport. However, it can be converted into a gunship like the one you see here on your right. Now both of them will have what we consider cheek guns, which are the guns up in the front. They'll have one in the front, one in the rear. Those are generally going to be 12.7 mil Dishkums. Now, as far as the gunship variant, those again can have any number of things from cannon pods, rocket pods, all kinds of shit. It also has increased armor. Now, the normal one, the non-gunship variant, only going to be used as a troop transport. Yes, it does have cheek guns, but those are in a defensive capacity. Those cheek guns aren't used in an offensive capacity. So you're primarily going to see these things dropping off troops. But don't be amazed if you do see one with those little winglets that have been converted into a gunship. Now in this situation, some reason we do have two HIPs up in the air. One's a gunship and one's not. Have to make sure that you differentiate when you call up that information that one is a gunship and one isn't. Because the one that's a gunship is going to be a threat to us. One that is not a gunship isn't really much of a threat to us. He's going to drop off maybe 10 infantry, which usually isn't too much of a big deal. But a fucking helicopter flying above us that's got a bunch of rockets and cannons on it, that is a big deal. Alright, so make sure you differentiate between the two. Alright, any questions on the HIP?
No, for certain.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, now we're going to get into some of our Blue 4 vehicles. So first thing we're going to go over here is the AH-64 Apache Longbow. AH-64 is our primary attack gunship. One we use is actually not the one that is sitting here in front of you right now, but the Apache is outfitted with a 30mm cannon underneath the nose, as well as Hellfire missiles, Hydra rockets, and AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles, which are anti-air missiles. A 30mm cannon can accurately engage targets from 2.5 clicks away, thanks to that camera that is in the nose. Why the fucking front of this thing, the nose of it looks like it's got a big wart on it. That's a camera that can identify fucking targets from a long ways out. Rockets can be used to hit both infantry and mechanized motorized elements. And then we have the Hellfire missile. Hellfire missile is one of the greatest weapon systems ever made to destroy armor. One of the big advantages is one of the Hellfires we have lock-on after launch capability. Meaning, this airframe can be sitting 4 clicks outside of the AO, tucked down behind a mountain somewhere. Someone with a laser designator can laze a target. This Apache can pop up from behind that mountain, fire that Hellfire off into the wild fucking blue yonder, and drop back behind the mountain without ever having to see the target. That missile will pick up that laser designator and follow that laser right into that target. So this thing can kill armor without anybody ever even knowing it's there. And actually, the vast majority of the time that you guys are out there in an operation, you're not going to know the Apache is there. It's going to be prosecuting targets, and you're never going to see it. Because it's going to be sitting 2-3 clicks out there. They're doing their job right. You're never going to get eyes on them. But believe me when I tell you, these guys kill a fuck ton of armor for us. Now, the call sign for the Apache is Warlord. That will be important to you. So again, the call sign for the Apache is Warlord. All right, any questions on the Apache?
Yes,
Bend it.
I didn't understand the part you said, like, put the laser designator on this thing will shoot it. I didn't understand this one. What did you mean?
The missiles on a Hellfire missile locks onto a target. Okay.
Okay.
Generally, to lock onto a target, you have to have physical eyes on it because you have to paint it with a laser, right?
Yep.
The way a Hellfire, the special Hellfires work, the lock-on after launch Hellfires work, the Apache doesn't have to have the actual laser. The missile is programmed to pick up the laser code of the laser designator carried by the infantry out 3-4 kilometers ahead of the Apache. So that means a member of the TAC-P, the Tactical Air Control Party, can have a laser designator up on a mountain somewhere and laze a tank, and these guys can be 5 kilometers away and just fire that missile off, and that missile will pick up on the laser code from the laser designator that JTAC is carrying and follow that laser into the tank, and the Apache never has to see the piece of armor.
Oh, I see. Okay, understood.
So basically, they can fire completely blind. And that's what the Apache is made for, is what's known as a pop-up attack. And it's called a pop-up attack because they pop up from behind a mountain or defilade, fire off a missile, and then drop back below defilade where nothing can engage them. Now, in real world, they're also used in conjunction, well, they were used in conjunction with a recon helicopter, a Kiowa. We replaced that helicopter with what we're going over next, so follow me. Here, we have the AA-6 Little Bird. This is the MELB variant, Mission Enhanced Little Bird. Now, the MELB Little Bird, that little dome looked kind of like a black fucking snow globe under the nose. It's a very powerful camera. Camera is used for reconnaissance. So we can actually use this thing to spot and identify targets, also laze targets and shit from a distance. Now it is also armed. Has rocket pods. It also has GAU-19 Bravo. GAU-19 Bravo is one of the greatest fucking weapon systems ever created by man. It's a 50 caliber Gatling gun. They are fun as fuck. However, though this thing is armed, not heavily armored. It doesn't even have fucking doors on it. So this thing's primary role is reconnaissance. If we do need to call it in on close air support, they're going to come in flying what's known as MO, Map of the Earth. Basically, their skids are as close to the fucking ground as they can possibly get. Preferably, they're flying below the treetops. They'll fly in. Once they get close to their target, they'll pop up above the treetops, hit it with rockets and guns, and then bug the fuck out of the area. But again, it's going to be very, very fucking rare that we ever call this thing in on cast because of how little armor that it has. This helicopter can be taken down by a well-placed fucking AK-47 round. Now, the call sign for the Little Bird is Lancer. All right, any questions on the Little Bird?
No concern.
Also,
Excellent. Move on. All right, so next one we're going to go over. The A-10 Thunderbolt 2. Either one of you have any idea why it's called the Thunderbolt 2?
no idea.
It's made by Fairchild Republic, right, sir? I'm right for certain.
Correct?
So is it related to the P-47 or?
Exactly. You are the first person in 2 years to actually get that fucking correctly. The A-10 Thunderbolt 2 is made by the same company that made the P-47 Thunderbolt, the original fucking tank killer. Now, when Fairchild designed this plane, they designed it with close air support in mind. The first ever airplane designed with the purpose of close air support. Very distinctive in a couple of features. Firstly, its big ass flat wings. One of the reasons a lot of people think it's ugly is all its big surfaces. Well, it's designed that way so that it is highly maneuverable at low speeds. Those low speeds are achieved by those turbofan engines in the back. Those are not jet engines. They are turbofans. This is not a supersonic airframe, meaning it cannot break the sound barrier. It is used to fly low, slow, and do a fuck ton of damage. Now, the one we use, the A-10 Charlie, is outfitted with all kinds of different fun munitions. Laser-guided bombs, dome drop bombs, CBUs, missiles, anti-air missiles, Mavericks, all kinds of fun shit, as well as a TGP, targeting camera that can spot and identify targets from about 10 clicks away. So the A-10 is a fucking beast. Majority of the time, you're only going to hear it referred to as a Warthog, or simply the A-10. Got the nickname the Warthog because people think it's ugly. A little bit better than the original P-47's nickname, which is the fucking milk jug. So Warthog is actually a step up. Now, also when the A-10 was designed, it was designed with that big fucking gun in mind. Yes, this plane was technically built around that gun. They knew from day one they would be using the GAU-8 Avenger, which is a 30mm Gatling gun that fires depleted uranium rounds. No, it is not the biggest gun ever fitted to a fucking airplane. A lot of people seem to think that. It is not true. There have been anti-tank fucking guns fitted to airplanes before. However, the GAU is very fucking powerful. And it is very fucking well known for that burst that it lets off every time that it fires. I can tell you from personal experience, there is nothing closer to sensory fucking overload than having a danger close gun run come in on your position. You will feel the ground shake like the hand of God himself has reached down to do it. Now, one of the distinctive features about the GAU-8 is that when that thing fires, you will actually see and hear the impacts of the rounds before you hear the report of the gun itself. So don't be surprised if one day you're in an operation covering a sector and all of a sudden the ground in front of you starts fucking exploding 500 meters out ahead. And then you'll hear cannon go off. That's how you know it was the A-10. The Apache, when that thing starts engaging, you're never going to hear the cannon anyways, because he's not going to be close enough to you. But the A-10, when they engage, you're going to know they're there. And not just because of the gun. Those two engines back there make this thing one of the most distinctive sounding planes in the world. I can tell you spending 2 years sleeping next door to where these things were based at, you learn that sound really fucking quick. And so do the bad guys. The gun isn't the only thing that scares them. They hear those fucking engines spooling up, they get scared real goddamn quick. Because everybody in country knows what those engines sound like and what it means. So, the A-10, hands down the most powerful weapon system that we have available to us in a task force. You will learn to love it. Now, the call sign for the A-10 is Thunder. Mostly because it brings the fucking thunder. Alright, any questions on the A-10?
No.
Alright, excellent.
Oh,
Bye.
actually, for certain, I have one question.
Send it.
From the design, from what I can see, the nose gun, it doesn't look like it can depress any further. So does the A-10 pilot dive when he's about to make a strafing run?
Yeah, generally. They'll come in on a pretty shallow run. But it's going to be very dependent upon the situation, the terrain, threats in the area, so on. But generally what they want to do is line up as flat on the target as they possibly can so they can get the longest gun run that they can possibly can. What a lot of people don't understand with this thing, because of the fact that majority of the time in like videos and stuff, when you see the main gun on the A-10 fired, it's like a quick 2-second burst or maybe 3 seconds, and they think that, oh, well, that's all they can fire because the gun is just so goddamn big. No, it's not. It's because generally that's all that's fucking needed because they're really big fucking bullets flying through the air. These things can fire nonstop their entire ammunition without having to get off of the trigger. That was one of the requirements when doing the testing of the gun itself, was that it needed to be able to deplete the entirety of its ammunition load without melting the barrels down. So, and no, the old fucking rumor or myth is not true that if you fire this thing nonstop, it'll make the plane fly backwards. It's not that goddamn powerful. But long, short, yes, they're going to come in as shallow as they can so they don't have to dive and hit with the guns as long as they can. But there are situations where they're going to have to come in pretty steep. For a quick example of that, the higher end tanks, stuff like the T-80s and T-90s that have really strong reactive armor and shit and were made to combat this plane specifically. In order for the A-10s to really do anything to those with a gun, they can still take them out with the missiles, no problem. But if they have no missiles left and they have to hit it with a gun, then they basically have to turn the A-10 into a dive bomber and bring the plane down straight on top of the tank so that they're hitting it right in the top plate without any angle, no chance of bouncing the rounds, and drive the rounds down right through the top plate. But that's really the only instance where they're going to dive straight down onto the target. Any other questions?
No, for certain.
All right, stand by, one mic. All right, just stand by, one mic. Damon Smith, where the hell did you go? Motherfucker goes AFK as soon as I fucking need to go take a piss.
Top, I'm not in the group with you.
Oh. There he is. Well, that's fucking useless.
Top,
All right. I'm going to hand you guys off to Sergeant Smith here for a minute, and he's going to take you guys through the Black Hawk and the Chinook, and mounting and dismounting and so on. So, Sergeant Smith, go ahead and get them over there and start taking care of that.
No problem for Sergeant. Alright, follow me, gentlemen. Okay, actually first off, you look to your left, this is the CH-47 Chinook. can carry about 2 squads plus a couple more guys, depending if we take the door gunner slots or not. It is more maneuverable than this right here, the UH-60 Blackhawk. Blackhawk can only carry a squad plus 2 or 4 more guys, which means about a total of 15 guys can, I would say 14 guys can ride into this bird. Like I said, it all depends if door gunner slots are taken or not. So it can carry about a total of 4, 8, 12 people, and then 2 more with the door gunner seats, and which makes it 14. Now, we first start off with the Blackhawk. Now, before you begin, the way you're going to mount up into the Blackhawk, or prepare to get to mount up to Blackhawks from a 90-degree angle, as you see what these demonstrators are doing right now. You're going to come into a file. Once again, still your nut to butt. You're waiting right beside the door, a few inches off the door, waiting for the order to board into the bird. The orders are going to be given to you by the squad leader. Even if the pilot told the squad leader or the shock leader you're cleared to board into the bird, you still cannot board. You gotta wait for your squad leader to tell you, or the shock leader to tell you, that you're cleared to mount into the bird. Now the shock leader is basically the infantryman who's in charge of the infantrymen inside of the bird. So usually a squad leader in a Blackhawk will automatically be the shock leader. Now in the Chinook, and I'll explain that later on, the shock leader will usually be one of the squad leaders, or someone else in command will be the shock leader of the bird. Now, shock leader is only a term used during air assault, as if we're fast roping, but you'll learn that later on if you take air assault school. So you're gonna basically, as infantryman, if you're just fire team, you're gonna basically get in a file. They've noticed it's almost the same order it would be if you're in your PCCs. What is the order in the PCC? Whenever you're in a file, getting ready to do your pre-combat checks. You guys do not know what order you're supposed to get into when you're doing your PCCs?
I think I know the first. Is it fire team leader, auto rifleman, grenadier, and then rifleman?
Yep. You look right here, it's just like that. Because right now, we're boarding into the bird in base. So whenever we're in base and we're about to board into bird, usually when you guys are walking to the bird, you're already in that formation, so the automatic formation just forms up right here. And one thing I want to tell you though, if to help you out on knowing if all your men are in the bird, fire team leader, I would advise you being at the rear of the formation. So have your AR grenadier and rifleman be in front of you. This way you know when all your men are in the bird. However, this is what you're going to be in when you're waiting for the order from your squad leader to give you permission to board. So once the pilot gives squad leader permission to board and the squad leader deems that you can board into the bird, you're board in. So your squad leader will tell you guys on your squad net. So you can't yell it out loud because the engines would be running and the orders would be spinning. So once your squad leader gives you orders to board in, whoever's the team leader, you've got to make sure that you let your men know that as well. So say it on the radio once again, because if you see on yelling, people can't hear you while the bird is spilling off. So once you've given the orders to board, say on your team net, and then your men will mount into the bird. Now your job as team members is to say that you are in. So once you get into the bird, you'll say Smith is in, then McMillan's in, Batagam is in. And you're gonna say on your team net. This way your team leader knows that you're in the bird. Now, if you're a team leader, do you have to say on your own radio that you're in a bird? No. You should know that you're in a bird unless you can't process that. So when you hear all 3 guys say they're in a bird, then your team is in the bird. So everyone else said they're in a bird and you're in the bird, your team's in the bird. Now, like I said, one way you could do it, if you didn't hear everyone else say it, if you're at the rear of the stack, or not stack, but at the rear of the file, if you saw all 3 of you guys in the bird and you get into it, then you know you're in a bird as well. So, but those 2 things you got to make sure you do. You got to make sure you say that you're in the bird. If you're a team member and team leaders, once you hear all of your team members are in the bird, then you go ahead and tell Actual that Alpha or Bravo is all in the bird. Any questions for what I just said so far?
Yes, I have one question.
Go ahead and send it.
They stated the squad leader. So the guy who's on the left right now is the squad leader. Right?
Yes.
And then the rest are the following squad. So stated that they have to jump first, and then he can come in, or he has to get in first and then say, "Oh, we're all in."
Usually squad leader will be the last one to board into bird, so you know for sure that everyone's in.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's a little different in Chinook, and I'll show you that later on. But squad leader is usually on the side because he has to talk to pilot, and then when the pilot gets permission, then he'll tell you guys to board in.
Oh, watch
Yep.
that.
Alright, so the person at the end of this right here, the reason why it's not 4, reason why it's not 4 and it's 5, because that's usually a squad medic or anyone else who would be going into the Black Hawk. So usually be some other element who will be right behind your team, who will be mounting up into your bird. Alright, so once you're in the bird, automatically you'll tell your team leader that you're in the bird. Now, team leaders, once you mount into the bird, you gotta make sure you select the door gunner slots, because you're in charge of the security of the bird when you're in that Gatling gun. So, if you're mounting up on the left-hand side, I'll fix that game name. When you mount up to the left-hand side of the Black Hawk, you got to make sure that you select the crew chief slot. That way you get kicked out the other side, but it doesn't matter. But the left-hand side is crew chief, the right-hand side is door gunner. Those are the spots you will select if you want to make sure that you're on the same side with your team. If your side is full while you're mounting up to the bird, the best way for you to rotate to the other side is making sure that you're crouched and you're going to follow alongside the bird from the front. You don't want to get outside the wings, that just takes you forever to go around. So you're going to follow the body of the bird and go around until you approach the other side if your side is full. Now, you're not going to rotate from the rear because the pilot can't see behind him. And if you rotate from the rear, he's going to think everyone's all in, and then he's going to take off. And if he takes off and backs up, you're going to end up getting yourself cut up. So you're going to rotate from the front so the pilot A can see you, and the B, the pilot will not leave. Any questions so far?
No, sorry.
No, certain.
Okay. Alright, so that's how you're going to get yourself ready to mount to the bird, and then you get in the bird. Go ahead and follow me. I'm going to show you how to dismount out of the Black Hawk. Actually, one thing I did forget to point out. Now, the way you're gonna if you're in the Gatling gun, if you're a team leader, make sure that that turret is facing to the front and down to the ground. The reason why you want it facing the front and down to the ground is because if it's facing up in the air, you're gonna put a hole in one of these warders. And then number 2, you might put a hole in one of the birds in the air base, either landing or taking off. Also, you may put a hole in someone else's body if you accidentally misclick. So if you point it towards the ground to the front of the bird, then we're about hitting somebody if you accidentally misclick or misfire. Now we move on. So when the bird's in the air, you can put this turret anywhere you want to face it towards. Take out any targets that you need to take out. However, once the bird touches the ground, that is your order. You're okay to go ahead and dismount. You don't have to wait for no permission to dismount the bird. You automatically will dismount out of the bird. If you notice the pilot tries to land and he takes off instead of landing, then now it's under the pilot to give you the permission to dismount. Alright, so once the bird touches the ground, now you're free to dismount. Now, door gunners, you're the last one to dismount because you can provide the most maximum amount of security for everyone else dismounting of the bird and security for the pilot. So you're the last ones to dismount. However, everyone else is going to dismount. If you're a team member, you're going to say, "What's my name?" Dismount, or once my name is out. So Smith is out, Macmillan is out, Badigam is out. And once team leader heard 3 of the guys dismounted, then he'll dismount out of the bird. And then he'll know that his team is out. He'll radio to actual, this is Alpha or Bravo. We're all out. Any questions so far?
Yes, just one thing I did not really get 100%. When I get out of the Black Hawk, I should say Macmillan, right?
Yes, Macmillan's out.
Oh, Macmillan's out. Okay.
Macmillan's out, yep. That way your team leader knows who is out specifically.
Okay.
Yep. If you're a team leader, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say that you're out. If you hear 3 guys say that they are out, then you know that your team is out, and you know, of course, that you are out. So all you guys say is Alpha is out on SquadNet.
But the team leader should get out first.
Team leader's the last one out.
Oh,
Because,
last one out.
yeah, you're on the door gunner slot. You have the most maximum firepower for the bird as possible, along with the AR. So you wait till everyone's out, then you'll get out of the bird.
Oh, roger that.
Yep. So once your team is out, then you could get out of the door gunner slot or door gunner seat.
Just
Alright.
one more quick question, Staff Sergeant.
Yes, go ahead.
Right next to you. Is that the
Yeah,
squad leader?
I'm
team
about to
leader?
explain that. So right now, yeah, I was just asking if there are any questions so far what I just said. All right. So
Okay.
when you dismount, you're gonna form a semicircle to the bird, basically 180-degree security on your side of the bird. So basically, it's almost like you're basically forming the wingspan. You're forming the circle of the wingspan. So you got to make sure you're almost at the tip of the wingspan. If you notice right here. So you're not going to be outside of it, but you're going to be within it. You're forming that 180-degree semicircle so you get security outside of the bird. So basically, this is what you're shaping out. Now, these two guys right here is basically can be the squad leader or squad medic. They're going to be crouching because they need to see or get eyes out past these men to see where they can move their squad next. So team leaders squad leaders don't have to necessarily have to go prone, but they always need to see where they got to move next to. Come over here, same thing on the other side. The other team that has dismounted, same thing, 180-degree circle, or 180-degree security on a semicircle on their side of the bird. You always need to make sure that if you're the man on the far left-hand side, got security out to 12 o'clock. Gotta remember, make sure that you're always watching 12 o'clock. If you're the person to the far right, always got security to the rear of the bird. So to the 6 o'clock. And that's the same thing on the other side. Now, these don't have to be absolutely perfect, but if you're watching every sector, then you got perfect security established. So especially if you're in a combat zone and you're being transported to a combat zone and you're dismounting, just get out the bird and get those security established. Don't worry about how perfect the semicircle has to be, just as long as everyone's watching each sector. Now, if you dismount it and a guy lay down right here and you lay down right here, don't watch the same area he's watching. You notice that this guy's watching towards basically the 4 o'clock, and this guy's watching 6 o'clock as well. So don't watch the same sector everyone else is watching. Even though someone's watching the same sector as you, just be a better man and watch a different sector. Any questions?
No, Staff Sergeant.
Yes, just one small question. Does it? You said.
Make sure you dress
said-
the rank. Yes, Sergeant. I have a question. Go ahead.
I think you said it doesn't matter whether you're AR or AT. Doesn't matter where which direction you sit.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, it does not matter where you sit. The whole objective here is to get you out of the bird as quickly as possible and get security established. All of that as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Alright, any other questions?
No, sir,
Alright,
thank
go ahead
you.
and follow me to the Chinook. Alright, once again, remember, address the rank. When I say anybody got any questions, yes, Sergeant, I have a question. And say your name so I can know who it is that has the question. Everyone understand?
Roger that.
Alright, let's not fall off of that. Alright, so the Chinook's a little bit different than the Blackhawk. The Blackhawk, you're going to board into a 90-degree angle. In the Chinook, you board into a 45-degree angle from the rear, down off the side, because there's only one entry point in the Chinook, and that is from the rear. Now, the reason why we boarded from 45-degree angle is because these burners right here. We don't want y'all to get yourselves punking out before the first assault, or before the first fire is given out. So you're going to board into a 45-degree angle for your safety. That way you won't be creating no self-inflicted injuries, because you get charged for that. Well, you used to. Now you're going to board into a 45-degree angle, just as so. And basically, one squad's on each side. So when your squad leader tells you to go on the left-hand side, then this space on the left-hand side you're going to be in. If your squad leader tells you to go on the right-hand side, where you see Private Battingham is that, you're going to be forming that file on the right-hand side. So squad leader will tell team leaders Alpha Bravo going to board in the left-hand side bird, the right-hand side bird, and then Alpha Bravo, you guys just go on the right-hand side of the bird. Now, when we're in a safe zone or in an air base and we're mounting to the birds, try to keep it by teams. One team in front, one team at the rear. Don't try to bungle up the teams. This way a team leader can know for sure that his team is in the bird. So if you're in Bravo and then you're mixed up with Alpha, Get out of the formation where Alpha's at and get to where your team is at. This way we can know all teams are there, and the team leaders can know that his team is in. Everyone understand?
Yes, Staff
Yes,
Sergeant.
Staff Sergeant.
Alright, and just trust me as Sergeant, you have to say Staff Sergeant. Alright, so this guy right here could be the squad leader, shock leader. He got permission from the pilot to board into the bird. When the pilot told him permission granted, are you going to board into the bird? Yes or no? If the pilot told the squad leader or shock leader that he could board into the bird, are you going to board in?
Should be.
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant, no. You're not going to board into the bird. Remember, you got to wait for the orders of the squad leader. But the squad leader has to get orders from the platoon HQ to say, alright guys, you can board into the bird. And if he's gotten orders from the pilot and platoon HQ or whoever else to board into the bird, then he's clear to board in. But sometimes there's always something may happen where they have to either fraggle the order or whatsoever. So you gotta wait. Now, once again, same thing here. Other elements that are attached to ride with us in the bird will be at the rear. So it could be either mortars, TAC-P, company HQ, somebody would be in our same bird. Now back to the beginning. You're gonna board in one by the other. If you're the third man in this line, and you got an option to board into the bird, do not board in. You're waiting for the person in front of you to board in. Now, if this person's taking about maybe 10 seconds whatsoever, and he can't get in, then you can skip him. Now, if you cannot enter the bird, hold on 1 second, stay standby. Let me lower the ramp. Now, in any case that you can't board into the bird from this side right here, come over where I'm at. You should be able to get the option for left ramp or right and back. Does everyone see that? Do not click it, but do you see it?
Yes, Sergeant.
Alright. If you can't get any options board into bird, try to come to the center of the ramp. It should at least give you the option. It should give you the option for door gunner, crew chief, right and back, passenger, left. It should give you all those options. Am I correct?
Yes, Sergeant.
Alright, so the left side doesn't work for you. Try to get to the center of the ramp. That doesn't work for you. Get to the left, right of the ramp. That doesn't work for you. Radio to your team leader. Tell your team leader, I'm not getting any options, or I can't board into the bird. Alright, so try to do all those options before holding up the line, preventing everyone else from boarding to the Chinook. So like I said, you can wait by your orders. You wait in line, or wait in the file until it's your turn to board into the bird. Once you're in, what do you say? Or what do you do once you're inside the Chinook?
Say Macmillan in.
Yep, Macmillan's in. Batagam is in. If you're a team leader, you wait to hear everyone else say that they're in. When you hear that your whole team is in, and you know that you're inside the Chinook or the Blackhawk, then you can ready to your squad leader, tell your squad leader that your team is in. Alright, any questions on how to board into... Oh, one more last thing as well. If you're a team leader, if these door gunner slots are not taken, go ahead and take it. So take door gunner seats if they're not occupied. Any questions on everything I just said, how to mount up into the Chinook?
No question, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Alright, go ahead and follow me to the Chinook. Oh, well, how to dismount the Chinook. Let me open her up once again.
Question.
Yes, question.
This is the Chinook, and the other one is also a Chinook, right?
Yes, both of them are the same birds. It's like those two are both Blackhawks.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, okay, so here with the Chinook, we dismount in an orderly fashion. In a combat zone and out of a combat zone. And when you mount up into the Chinook or Blackhawks, you mount up the same way, but you don't wait your turn. You hurry up and get in there. If you're in a combat zone, and we're getting, these birds are here for an extract, you get inside that bird as quickly as possible. But make sure that you still go into a 45 degree angle. Everyone understand?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yep, you got bullets
Yes, sir.
flying, get in there. Now if we're in a base, you get into an orderly fashion. Alright, so now to dismount out of the bird in a safe zone or in a combat zone is in an orderly fashion. Because what's going to happen is that if 10 or 20, 50, 11 people try to dismount out of the Chinook, what's going to happen is that you guys are going to start forming your own little Eiffel Tower. You're going to end up getting into the rotors, you're going to stop the rotors from spinning, you're going to get knocked out, the bird will either explode or no longer function. And if this bird is in a combat zone, you got people going to either blow up or you got the pilot we have to babysit the whole time. So come over here a little closer. Do not enter the bird. Just stay by the ramp. I'm showing you which seats dismounts first. Like I said, we dismount in an early fashion. I'm going to do it zigzag. So when the bird touches the ground, this is the first person to dismount. One of these two guys will dismount first. Usually will be this seat. Next will be this seat. The next will be this seat. The next will be this seat, and it keeps on going in zigzag. Everyone can see that.
Yeah.
So okay, everyone can see how it will be your turn to dismount.
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes,
Alright.
sir.
So you wait your turn. If I am all the way... Oh, Lord. Oh, great. There we go. If I'm all the way back in this seat, and there's someone... I don't know if you can see what I'm pointing at, but if someone's in that seat right next to where that hole is, am I going to dismount?
No, Sergeant.
No,
Nope, I'm
Sergeant.
going to wait my turn. Alright, any questions?
No, Sergeant.
Okay.
No, Sergeant.
Once again, Steel, door gunner's the last one to dismount. They wait till everyone else has dismounted out of the bird. Alright, excuse me. Now, if you're in these first two, these ramp seats, left ramp and right ramp seat, when the bird touches the ground, you dismount, you button hook left or right, and you get security to the front of the bird, as you see what this guy is doing. That is your priority. That is your job to do. Do not forget that. If you're in those two ramp seats, or the first two to get out of the bird, you button hook left or right and get security to the front of the bird. That's your priority because we need to make sure that these pilots are safe at all times while they're staying here and waiting for us to get out. Any questions so far?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Okay.
Actually, one question.
Go ahead.
This is just a bit of a hypothetical. If the Chinook is taking a lot of fire and the pilot thinks it's necessary to take off, what happens then?
That's a good question. All right. So if there are still people inside the bird and the people have already dismounted, people who have already dismounted will get security up, gets behind some cover, take out the enemies that are currently engaging them in the bird pilot. The pilot will move to a safer position to extract the allow the infantrymen to get inserted into the AO. Usually pilots and company HQ have already designated what is a primary LZ and an alternate LZ if there's too much fire. So the pilot would just go to the alternate LZ and get these guys out into the AO. And then those guys in the AO would just rally up with the guys who've already dismounted earlier. So the pilot would just tell you guys to do not dismount, hold up or whatever. He'll tell you guys what to do whenever the LZ is too hot. But usually we take fire as soon as before we even get ready to land. So usually it's very rare that we have people already dismounted and the pilot has to take off without everyone else dismounted already. Alright, so if you're not the two people in those two seats, or you're not the first two people to dismount, you're going to get out and you're going to form once again a semicircle at the rear of the bird. Now, it looks perfect, but imagine 2 squads plus about 6 more guys dismounting. It's going to get more congested. So your priority is just to get out the bird and get security to a certain sector that someone's not watching. So immediately get out, pick a spot, and lay down. It's not going to be this perfect and this kind of a semicircle, but as long as we got 3-6 security established out of the Chinook, we're good. Any questions?
One more question, sir. Sergeant.
Go ahead.
The person who dismounts, the 2 people who dismount after the ramp sitters, do they cover that side? The 6 o'clock of the Chinook?
No, like I said, the first people to dismount, take the front of the bird. They button hook left or right.
But the people right after them, should they go straight forward?
Yes, yeah. Straight forward, 6 o'clock. Pick
Understood.
any spot. Just get this whole area filled up so we get that 180-degree security to the front of the bird. These two in the front have already established the 180-degree security to the front of the bird. Yep, alright. Now you wait for the bird to take off, and then next thing you do, once the bird is out of the area, that's for both the Blackhawk and Chinook, you immediately find some cover to get behind and wait for your next orders. Any questions?
No,
No,
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
guess
All
it's
right,
my
follow
turn
me.
again.
We're going to move on to the next course.
All right, follow me. We're going to move on to the next course.
All right. All right. All right. So next thing we're going to go over is our gun trucks. Now, the ones we specifically
so
use,
next thing we're gonna go
the
over
ones you see behind me
is
here
our
are
gun
Cougars.
trucks.
These are 6x Cougars.
Now,
We will also
ones we
sometimes
specifically
use an
use,
unarmed
the
variant
ones you
known
see
as an
behind me here.
RG33, and we also use a 4x variant that is used as a GCV, a ground command vehicle, which is actually right back there behind you guys. That has that thing with the big fucking tube on the back of it. Inside of that tube is a periscoping camera that has full FLIR night vision capability and so on. That's our GCV. But as far as the infantry goes, infantry ride in the Cougars, these big ass 6x trucks. Now, oftentimes you're going to hear guys refer to these Cougars as simply as MRAPs. Understand that, yes, these are MRAPs, but MRAP is a classification of a vehicle, not the name of a vehicle. All of the trucks we use are MRAPs. These things are called Cougars, right? MRAP, as I said, is a classification of a vehicle. It's a type of vehicle. Either one of you know what MRAP stands for?
No idea.
Is it multi-role?
Nope.
No idea.
Mine resistant, ambush protected.
Say it.
Mine resistant, ambush protected.
Roger.
Now, MRAPs are the direct result of our second fucking visit to the sandbox. They are made to combat IEDs, first and foremost. When we first went into Iraq and Afghanistan with fucking Humvees, it was very quickly found out that the flat bottom of the Humvee, while it's great for traversing terrain, it is not great for rolling over top of an 80mm mortar. Because when an explosive is set off underneath of it, that flat bottom actually channels all of the explosive force and shrapnel up into the passenger compartment, which is exactly what you do not want out of a vehicle. So the military asked for a new vehicle, and the MRAP was born. The most distinctive part of an MRAP is its V-shaped hull. V-shaped hull means the bottom of the vehicle is shaped in a V, much like the bottom of a boat. Kind of the same way. What that does is when an explosion goes off underneath of it, that explosive gas and that shrapnel is pushed up and away from the vehicle rather than into the passenger compartment. That doesn't mean that these things are fucking bomb-proof. All right, you set a 155 shell off underneath anything up to and including fucking M1 Abrams, it's going to do damage. But these are much more survivable. I have seen one of these things with all of the tires blown out and damn near half the front of it ripped off, and everybody came home alive. Yeah, guys still get beat the fuck up, blown out eardrums and so on, but they still get to come home. Now, our specific MRAPs that we use, primarily the Cougars, these are also outfitted with RPG cages. RPG cages were something that were added to the trucks as a result of the amount of RPG-7s that were being used against us. The way an RPG-7 works, you have the main grenade, right? That's the big fat part that sticks out of the front of the RPG. All right, you guys know what the typical RPG looks like, right? You guys have seen them in pretty much every video game. I'm going to take your silence as a yes. So, that main big fat part, that's the actual explosive. The tip of it, where it comes down to a tip, that's a detonating warhead. So what that RPG does, when it impacts, that warhead explodes and makes a hole for the tungsten core that is inside of it. That core is what does all the damage. That's what goes through the armor and bounces around inside. So, when an RPG impacts a truck or any vehicle with an RPG cage, that cage is what takes the explosive force instead of the actual side armor of the vehicle. That way that core has to now punch all the way through the armor to get through, rather than that explosive warhead making a hole for it. So that's what those big ass cages around the trucks are made for. That's to make the RPG detonate outside of the armor of the vehicle instead of impacting it broadside. So these things are made to survive explosions. Doesn't, like I said, doesn't mean they're bomb proof. Alright, they can still get fucking destroyed fairly easily. Now the Cougars that we use, the 6x, we have two main variants really, and that really the only difference is just the armament. We'll use either the M2, which is the Browning 50 cal heavy machine gun, or the Mark 19, which is the fully automatic 40mm grenade launcher. Those are the only two Cougars that we use. Now, when it comes to working with these trucks, rule number one, if you're riding in one of these things, you're going to be in the back of the truck. Do not abuse your use of third person. What I mean by that is, if you're sitting in the back of this truck, you should not be calling out targets to the guy up in the gunner's nest, because there is no fucking way you can possibly see it. Look at these trucks. They do not have any windows in the side. There is a window in the back door, and the window is up front. That is it. I've spent many of hours riding in the back of these motherfuckers. Believe me when I tell you, you have exactly fuck all for visibility in the back seat. Don't abuse your use of third person to try and call out targets. Same goes for when you're in the helicopters. If you're coming into an LZ, don't try and call out targets to the fucking guys up on the guns. There's no way you're seeing them. But especially with these trucks, don't abuse it. Now when it comes to actually operating with these things, whether we're going on a convoy or we're just doing mounted operations, every squad is going to be assigned to one truck if we're taking the trucks out that day. So, the way it'll work is you'll know well ahead of time, you'll be briefed by your hire what type of truck you're taking and so on. One team is going to be responsible for the truck. One team is going to be purely a dismount team. All right, so the dismount team we're not really going to cover here. It's pretty self-explanatory. When you're told to dismount, get the fuck out of the truck. Pretty simple. So we're going to focus on the team that is responsible for the vehicle. So, as I said, you're going to be briefed ahead of time. You're going to know if your team is going to be responsible for that truck. You're going to know what kind of truck you need and everything. So let's break down what everybody's responsibility is in the team. Firstly, the rifleman, he's going to be the driver. The grenadier, his natural battle buddy, he's the gunner. Right? We always keep our battle buddies together. So if the rifleman's driving, grenadier is gunning. Team leader is generally going to ride shotgun, but that may change depending upon squad leader discretion and so on. Automatic rifleman just rides in the back. He doesn't really have any responsibilities. So first, let's focus on the rifleman. Right? He's got the biggest amount of responsibility. He's driving the truck. So what will happen? If you're in the team that's responsible for the truck, as I said, you're going to be briefed ahead of time what type of truck you're going to need, what order in the convoy you're going to be, so on. So you load into the server. We're going to be taking the gun trucks out. We're going to be in a convoy of, say, 8 Vics. Vic is short for Victor or vehicle. So you get briefed and told, okay, we're going to be 4th Vic in the convoy. It's going to be a 50 cal truck. As a rifleman, when you load into the server, you're going to get geared up, do your PCCs just like normal, do your radio checks and everything. And then eventually your team leader is going to tell you, all right, go grab our truck and get it lined up. So you're going to go over to the motor pool, grab one of the 50 cal trucks, pull it out onto the road as the 4th vehicle in line or in the file. Right? Once you have the vehicle lined up and ready to go, now you need to do a radio check for your truck. Each one of these trucks have 2 long-range radios. One for the driver, one for the gunner. As the driver, you're the first person in the Vic, so you're the one responsible for doing the radio check. Now, it works just like our normal short-range radio checks, but it's going to be on a long-range radio. Now, in order to open the long-range radio, you're going to hold Alt and press P instead of Control P. So hit Alt P, and it'll pull up the long-range radio. Now it's going to look different than the short range, but all the buttons still say the exact same thing when you hover over them. So it's very intuitive. You hover over the buttons, says the exact same shit. Set frequency, clear frequency, so on. Very easy to use. So you're going to open up your radio. You're going to set it to convoy net. Convoy net is always going to be 50. I highly recommend you write that down. Don't ever forget it. 50 is always convoy net. Doesn't matter which task force is operating. It's always the same one. So you set your radio to 50, and then you are going to set the long-range radio to speakers. Long-range radio in the truck is the only radio you are ever going to set to speakers. And the driver is the only one that sets his shit to speaker. If the driver and the gunner both do it, then you're going to get feedback and shit. So the driver's radio is the only one that ever gets set to speakers. The only exception being is if you have a command element riding in your truck. But that's going to be very rare, and you're going to know well ahead of time if you're going to have one in there. So they'll tell you, don't set your radio to speakers. We already have a ton of radio communications going on, and we're going to be on 50 on our backpack radio, so we don't want it on speaker as well, because then we're going to be hearing shit twice. But again, very rare that's going to happen. So normally you're just going to set your shit to 50, set it to speakers, then close the radio, and then you do your radio check. Now, how do we normally do our radio check? Do any station in this net, this is so-and-so radio check frequency, so on and so forth, right? Well, in this, still do the same thing. Any station in this net, this is. However, our vehicles have a calling station. Their calling station is whatever number they are in the convoy. So if you lined your vehicle up as the 4th Vic, then your vehicle's calling station is Vic 4. Right, so your radio check would consist of any station in this net, this is Vic 4, radio check, frequency 50, over. And then someone responds back to you just like normal. So it's just like a normal radio check, just instead of saying your name, you're calling out your vehicle's calling station. All right, does that make sense?
Yes, we're starting.
Question.
Send it.
Did you mean that if I'm in a vehicle, I should be the radio call sign should be called Vic? Is that right?
It's going to be dependent on which vehicle in the convoy you are, which number. Yes, it's Vic, as in Victor. Okay, so if you're the 1st Vic, then your calling station is Vic 1. If you're the 3rd vehicle, then your calling station is Vic 3. Make sense?
Roger that.
All right. So, rifleman goes, gets the truck, gets it lined up, gets his radio set up, does his radio check, and then you just sit there and wait for everybody to get loaded into the truck. Once everybody gets loaded in, you sit there and wait some more. And eventually, the convoy commander, who is the task force commander, is going to come over the radio and say something along the lines of, all vehicles, be advised, convoy commander, convoy is Oscar Mike, maintain speed of 50 kph, maintain dispersion of 50 meters. Okay? So what that means is, when he says convoy is Oscar Mike, that means on the move. Okay, so that means we're going to start rolling the convoy. Maintain speed of 50 kph. Right, that's 50 kilometers per hour. The way we achieve that is we'll get up to that speed, up to 50 kilometers per hour, and the person driving, the rifleman, will then hit delete on their keyboard, the button underneath the insert button, and that will set the speed limiter on the truck. Speed limiter is not a cruise control. It simply limits the speed of the vehicle. All right, so once you get up to 50, you hit delete, and then you can just hold down whiskey, and it won't go above 50 kilometers per hour. Now, once that convoy is ready to roll, once you get the order from the convoy commander, first thing that's going to happen after that order comes over the radio from the convoy commander, that lead Vic is going to call lead Vic Oscar Mike 50 kph. And then everybody else is going to remain silent and just follow them out in a file. Lead Vic's going to get up to 50 kph and set a speed limiter. All the rest of the vehicles are going to stay silent. Even though they're on the same net, nobody's going to say anything until the last vehicle starts rolling. Once the last vehicle starts rolling, he's going to say, last Vic, Oscar Mike, 50 kph. And that's it. It doesn't matter if we have 4 vehicles in a convoy or if we have 20. The first Vic and the last Vic are the only ones that call out that they're rolling. Reason being, we don't need to clutter the fucking frequency with 10 vehicles all calling out that they're moving. If the first Vic calls that he's rolling and the last Vic calls that he's rolling, we know everybody else in the middle is doing the same thing, right? Make sense?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Sergeant.
Alright. So, once that convoy is rolling, you're going to be making turns and stuff. Alright, so if we roll up and we're going to be making a right turn at an intersection, just like with when we start rolling, lead Vic is going to call that he's making a turn. So they're going to call lead Vic turning right. Everybody else is going to follow him and remain silent until the last Vic gets up to that turn. Then the last Vic's going to call last Vic turning right. And then we continue on our merry way. The only time the vehicles in the middle need to call anything is if they start getting engaged or they see contacts out there that are an imminent threat that they have to engage, then they'll call that stuff out and make the rest of the convoy aware of it. But other than that, lead vehicle and the last vehicle are the only ones that are really talking on convoy net, besides the convoy commander. Now the other thing is when we need to make speed changes. If we're going to roll into a town, any type of urban environment, and we aren't dismounting, meaning we're just going to roll through the town, we're going to slow the convoy down, just to make it a little bit safer for us and the inhabitants of that town. So when we're approaching a town, usually you'll get an order over convoy net from the convoy commander, lower speed to 30 kph, maintain 50 meter dispersion. Lead Vic will call out reducing speed to 30 kph, and they'll slow down to 30 kilometers per hour. Everybody else will slow down while maintaining their dispersion. Last Vic's going to call out their speed change that they slow down. Then once we get to the town, lead Vic would call lead Vic entering town. We'd roll through the town. Last Vic calls out that they're entering the town. Once we get out of the town, once a lead Vic reaches the end of the town, what do you guys think he does once he reaches the end of the town?
I have no comment.
No guesses.
No.
He maintains his speed. A lot of people have the habit, just because they reach the edge of the town, that they want to speed up. Well, if you speed back up to 50 kph and your buddies back behind you are still 3-4 blocks deep into the town doing 30 kph, you're going to leave them behind. So that lead Vic maintains that 30 kph. Even though he's outside of the town, he maintains the speed until that last vehicle calls that he's exiting the town. And then at that point, the convoy commander will come across and tell you to speed back up to 50 kph. You go through the whole fucking shebang again. All right, making sense to you guys?
Yes, for certain.
All right,
Yes, for
excellent. So, that covers everything that a driver has to do in terms of getting the vehicle set up, getting it moving, and so on. The other main responsibility of the driver is protecting that vehicle, placing that vehicle in a position where it is in the least amount of danger. Now, majority of the time, that's going to mean keeping it behind defilade or preferably behind some type of solid cover, whether it be a building, a high wall, so on. Now, if we're engaging targets, we want to be able to use that big ass gun that's on top of it, right? So you want to position that vehicle in an area where it's safe, but your gunner also has clear field of view to engage targets. Now, it's not always going to be easy to do, but you need to try. But above all else, safety of that vehicle is priority number one. So even if there are targets out there, if there is, say, a BMP-2 out there engaging us, you're not going to pull that truck out from behind cover so your buddy on the 50 cal can shoot 3 or 4 foot mobiles. We're not going to lose a fucking 5-ton truck because someone wanted to get a couple of numbers on their kill count. That's retarded. So Safety of that truck is always priority number one. So that covers everything for the rifleman. Now let's move on to the grenadier, the gunner. Once everybody gets loaded up into the trucks, when we're still back at base, grenadier's going to hop up in the gunner's nest. He can set his long-range radio to 50 if he wants to be able to directly listen to what's going on convoy net, but you don't have to because the driver's radio is set to speaker, so you can just listen to that if you want. But if you want another radio in your ear and be able to hear convoy net directly, that's fine. You can set your radio to 50 as a gunner, but again, don't set it to speakers. Now, the only thing being with that, in order to speak on your long-range radio, by default, the hotkey is Control Caps Lock, which can be pretty difficult to hold down and talk on while you're using Whiskey Alpha Sierra Delta to drive the truck. So there are often times where the driver of the truck isn't actually the one responding on the radio. It'll be the gunner, because it's easier for him to talk on the radio than it is for the driver while he's driving. But if people change their hotkeys, it's not that big of a deal. But just keep that in mind. There may be times where the gunner is going to be the guy talking on the radio, even though the driver has his radio set to speakers. Now, the gunner's first responsibility when you hop in the truck, get the gun pointed up in the air. One important thing to always remember working with these gun trucks. NDs, negligent discharges, are bad when you do it with your fucking 5.56 millimeter rifle. They're a whole lot worse when you do it with a 50 caliber machine gun, or heaven forbid, a 40 millimeter fucking grenade. So keep your barrels pointed up in the air until we leave the wire, or until we leave the base. Once we leave the base, then you can bring your barrels down and be ready to engage. Now when it comes to sectors of responsibility for those gunners, lead Vic, that gunner always has his gun pointed to the front. He is responsible for the front 180. Just like the point man in a fire team file, he's responsible for the front 180. Number 2, Vic, he's going to go at either the 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So he's covering either left or right. If number 2 vehicle is covering left, then number 3 is covering right. And they go back and forth down the file, just like a fire team file or a squad file. Works the exact same way. Last Vic, his gun is always pointed to the rear. Right, pretty simple. Make sense to you guys?
Yes, for sure.
Alright,
Yes, for sure.
Actually, one more question.
send it.
The gunner is always the grenadier, right?
Generally, yes. There are
Okay.
going to be times where, say, you're an automatic rifleman, but say you're really good with the Mark 19, and your squad is taking the Mark 19 out that night. Your team leader may tell you to get up in the gun. It's just like with the formations that we went over on day one. Remember I told you whoever's best for the job, let them do it?
Roger that.
Like that. Alright, so when it comes, the big thing though with sectors of responsibility, lead Vic and last Vic, right? Remember I told you, their guns are always pointed forward for the lead Vic, rear for the last Vic. Reason being, those vehicles are always the most vulnerable. If a convoy is going to get ambushed, lead Vic and the last Vic are the first ones to get hit. So they are most responsible when it comes to maintaining their sector of responsibility. They cannot drop their sector at any point in time, ever. Because again, if we're going to get hit, it's going to be one of those 2 Vics that get hits first. So they have to maintain their sector security at all times. Doesn't matter if you have an entire squad engaging the convoy from your right side. Let the other trucks that have the right security deal with that. If you're the lead Vic gunner, you cover the front because you never know what's going to be popping up in front of that convoy. Same with the rear. Now when it comes to the other 2 in the team leader and the AR, like I said, they're just riding in the truck. They don't have any responsibility when it comes to the actual functioning of the truck or any job within the vehicle. Now when we're in the convoy, anytime that we stop the convoy for more than a hot fucking second, We're going to pull those trucks off into a formation known as a herringbone, which if you guys look down there, that is a herringbone. The truck's pulled off of the road at a 45-degree angle. Completely pulled off of the road. Anytime that we stop the convoy for more than a second or so, we're going to herringbone. Anytime that we herringbone, we're going to do one of 3 types of dismounts. Either a soft dismount, combat dismount, or a full dismount. Soft dismount is a minimum. Anytime we stop the truck, we soft dismount, which means everybody but the driver and the gunner get out of the truck. Bare minimum. Every single time we stop the vehicles, driver and gunner stay in, everybody else gets out. Now, reason for this being, these trucks are big fucking bullet magnets. There's no sense in having 10 guys sitting inside of it when they could be outside pulling security. If we do dismount, try and get a little bit of distance between you and the truck. I don't mean go running off 50, 100 meters out in the middle of nowhere, but try and put a little bit of distance between you and the truck. If you can move to some solid cover, then do so. If there's nothing around, if say you were in a big fucking open field like this salt flat, then yes, use the truck for cover, but use that as a last resort. Now again, that's soft dismount, right? So remember, bare minimum, we soft dismount as soon as those trucks stop. Do not wait for someone to tell you to get out of the truck. Once that vehicle stops in a herringbone, get the fuck out. Now a combat dismount. A combat dismount, everybody but the gunner gets out of the vehicle. Combat dismount is used when we're in combat, right? So we're being engaged. We're engaging hostile forces. We need every rifle in the fight that we can get. So everybody but the gunner will get out, because the gunner's obviously going to stay up there in that big fucking machine gun or grenade launcher and engage targets. However, if you're the rifleman and you're told to get out of the truck, don't go running way the fuck away from the truck. You still need to stay close to it, because if something happens and that truck needs to be moved because he no longer has an angle to engage, or that vehicle starts getting engaged by some type of heavy cannon or so on, and you need to move it, you need to be close by so you can do it fucking quickly. Lastly, full dismount. Who do you guys think gets out of the truck in a full dismount? Everybody. Everybody gets the fuck out of the truck in a full dismount. Pretty simple. Now, anytime that we herringbone, notice that these trucks, like I said, Macmillan, you need to turn down your speakers or something, because I'm hearing myself twice. Alright. So, as I said, notice that the trucks in this herringbone are pulled all the way off of the road. Alright. When we dismount in a herringbone, this is fucking imperative. When you dismount, do not cross the road. Do not be the chicken. Do not cross the fucking road. Reason being, if say we herringbone the convoy because we're being engaged from the front by a roadblock with a BTR sitting at it and a squad worth of infantry, lead vehicle is going to have a rifle squad in it. Second, third, maybe fourth Vic is going to have the weapons squad. When we herringbone these trucks and we have a BTR down at the front of the convoy and a squad worth of infantry, only people that are going to be crossing that road are going to be one of the 240 gunners and his AG, his assistant gunner. And we're going to set those 240s up on the rails on each side of the road. And those 240s are about to start firing lengthwise right down the center of the fucking road, or right down the center of the convoy on each side of the road, starting to engage those foot mobiles. And then there's going to be an armor guy standing right smack dab in the center of the fucking road, and he's about to send an 86mm rocket right down the center of the fucking convoy to hit that BTR. I know this because I have watched it happen from my weapon squad when I ran one over a year ago. We had a tank roll out right in front of the fucking convoy and stop us dead in our tracks. Our convoy herringbone, and I didn't even say a fucking word, and my guys were already out of the truck, and one of my anti-armor gunners was standing in the center of the road with his maws on his shoulder, firing a fucking rocket right down the fucking center of the road, smoking that tank. So, again, I stress the fuck out of this. When we dismount, don't cross the road. Because if we are engaging shit down in front of the convoy, believe me, you do not want to catch an 86mm round from a recoilless rifle to the side of your fucking dome. It is not going to turn out well for you. Alright? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, for Sergeant.
Any questions on anything we have covered so far?
I don't have.
No, for Sergeant.
Outstanding. Sergeant Smith, anything you would like to add at this point?
I know for Sergeant.
I didn't hear you back there. Make sure you're on yelling.
No for Sergeant.
All right. All right, gentlemen. We are already a long ways into this, so we're going to cut it here today, and we'll pick up the last port tomorrow before we actually do your FTX. Main thing to keep in mind as far as the stuff we went over today, all right? Obviously, there was a fuck ton of information thrown at you. Just keep in mind the vehicles that we gone over, how to properly identify them, all right? Don't mistake a fucking BTR for a BMP. Remember, BMPs have tracks, BTRs have wheels. You'd think it's pretty fucking simple, but you would be surprised how often guys confuse them. It does make a difference, all right? Remember, BTRs, we can engage those with more weapon systems than what we can BMPs. So it does make a big difference whether you identify something as a BTR or a BMP or vice versa. Lastly, when it comes to these trucks and operating with these things, there's a lot of steps to go through to make a convoy work properly. Convoys are my fucking bread and butter. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in the back of these trucks. Many of fucking hours rolling around down fucking roads at 50 kilometers an hour with nothing to do but stare at the fucking guy across from me. I absolutely love doing convoys, but it takes a lot of organization and a lot of steps to make them go off without a hitch. So just keep in mind all of the shit that we went over when it comes to working with these trucks. And don't forget it. Hopefully you were taking fucking notes because it was a lot of shit that we went over. All right? Anybody have any questions about anything that we went over today?
I don't.
I have a quick question, not about something we covered today, but from the first day, which I'm still just a bit confused about.
Send it.
You mentioned that the team leader and auto rifleman are battle buddies, and the grenadier and rifleman are also battle buddies.
Yep.
But I heard that the auto rifleman is usually the 2IC, but that's not possible if they're battle buddies, right?
No, he's not.
So usually 2IC is like a grenadier rifleman or something?
Generally, yes. But that's, again, not always going to be the case. It's going to be a team-by-team basis. And the reason that a team leader and an automatic rifleman are naturally set up as a battle buddy is because the 249 is the largest casualty-producing weapon system that you have. So you want that directly next to the team leader, who is able to direct that fire where he wants it. But that's not always going to be the case. There may be, maybe the team leader and the grenadier just work together really well. So they're going to be a battle buddy. It's going to be a team-by-team basis on how they do things. All right, we don't force guys to set up their battle buddies in a certain way. We only do that for OSUT because, as I said, a team leader and an AR are a natural buddy team because of the weapon system that the AR has in his hands. All right, does that make sense to you?
Yes, for certain. Thank you.
All right. Like with anything else, like with the formations and stuff like that, whoever's best at the fucking job, they do that job. Simple as that. Doesn't matter what's, quote unquote correct in the textbook. Textbook generally goes out the fucking window once the first bullet flies over your head. So just keep that in mind. Any other questions?
No, Sergeant.
No, for certain.
All right, excellent. Like I said, that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow we're going to have quite a bit of shit to do, and then we're going to get into your FTX and carry on from there. But that's it for today. You guys are dismissed. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon.
Thank you for certain.
Don't have any
Thank you,
afternoon.
so much for watching.
It's late night.
User left your channel.